Cutback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal on his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and what a way for the Philadelphia Union to bounce back last night against Necaxa by a score of 3-1. Goal scorers Nathan Harriel, Bruno Damiani, who is in the intro, finally gets on the score sheet for the Philadelphia Union, and Cavan Sullivan finally has his first goal for the Union since May against Orlando City, giving him 4 goals in his young Philadelphia Union career. Now, you guys watching live, obviously, that is not Jose Nunez on the screen. Maybe you guys read the show description in the RSS feed and realized that Jose isn't doing the show. Or maybe you guys haven't even realized that we have somebody filling in for Jose. But we do. We do indeed. Making his debut. It's a short-term call-up. We'll see if it leads to a long-term contract with the squad. He is a former teammate for the Philadelphia Ringers, my coach for the Philadelphia Union Media Day, Evan Konigsberg. Probably messed it up.
What's up, Todd?
Bad.
How you
But
doing?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Honored to earn my first cap tonight.
Yeah, man. You and I were joking. I had to bring out the jersey. We were teammates 4 years ago now? I don't know. Time flies by. You were like, do I bring out the Celtic jersey? Do I not? I don't want to upset Union fans. Meanwhile, which way do I go? This way. I have a Celtic flag scarf in the back. He still didn't switch on the Celtic jersey, but he is here making his debut. And I feel like you've finally come full circle, Evan. I've seen you do shows, whether it be with Mike Barrera, with Kyle and Jillian of the One Team We're on, Mark and Jose themselves last year on College Match Day Soccer, I believe was Mark's old podcast. And now you're finally on the Free Kick. And yeah, so happens to be without Jose Nunez. But how you doing? You said good? I'm doing good. I'm glad that you're filling in. And it's great to have you on, honestly. It really is great to have you on.
Yeah, well, thank you, Todd. I really appreciate it. Like you said, it's been a really cool year getting into the Union media space and the digital media space especially. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
So I don't know, Evan, I mean, again, I've said it, you've done a lot of different shows. I feel like people have to know who you are. You do a lot of work with Philadelphia Soccer Now, right? So many articles. You're making videos, whether it be on TikTok, whether it be on their social medias. But I guess we got to do it for the sake of doing it. If people don't know who you are, give us a short introduction.
Hi, so I'm Evan. I'm with Philadelphia Soccer Now. We cover Philadelphia Union to college, to local amateur ball, even high school. And yeah, we're everywhere. We have a big team of writers and we try to get to as much as we can in the area. And yeah, you can find my work on Philadelphia Soccer Now social media pages on all platforms, or you can find me on Twitter or Blue Sky at Evan Knows Ball, or I just made a TikTok account for my new short form videos. You can find me there as well with the same username. So yeah.
All right, so people probably are confused. I said my former teammate and my former coach for the Union Media Day camp. So I'll start with the latter. So for people who aren't aware, Evan was supposed to play in this media camp day that the Philadelphia Union hosted about 2 months ago now, I feel like. A month ago now. Time flies by. And unfortunately, somebody tore their ACL and they weren't able to participate, and they still showed up, which was great. But yeah, I'm just saying, Evan, if you were out there, we probably wouldn't have won 0-2 on the day.
Yeah, that's on me. Never a good feeling as a guy with a 9-to-5 to tear your ACL. It's like an athlete thing to do. I was playing soccer when it happened. And I think the worst part about it, besides, letting you and the crew down that day, was I was talking so much smack to Jose. And I was like, I'm going to score 5-6 goals on you, and just never got the chance. So next year we'll see where we're at in our recovery. And hopefully, if they have the event again, I'll be able to show you guys what I got.
Well, hopefully you won't be scoring goals against us. Hopefully, they put you on the same team as us. But I guess, to be fair, right? Jose never was at the media game either. So both of you guys did not show up this year. Both of you guys excused because Jose covering the World Cup. I believe that was the day Ivory Coast versus Curacao, maybe, and then obviously your ACL injury. But then going back to what I said earlier, former teammate 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Evan, we played in Icarus Cup with formerly the Brotherly Games team, Matt Ralph, threw a team together, and long and behold, we didn't have enough players. And I believe he asked on Twitter, would anybody be interested in playing? And long and behold, you had reached out and said, yeah, I'd love to play. And what a baller that day. A team MVP. Didn't even come close. Nobody else reached your levels that day. I mean,
Todd, stop.
We for sure let you down.
Everybody knows that Joe Lister was the team MVP, but regardless, it was a great time meeting everybody. And if you guys haven't heard of Icarus Cup, I highly recommend looking into it. It's like a really fun, small-sided tournament that happens in Philadelphia every year. It was a great experience for me. I met a lot of guys, and it's honestly the reason why I do what I do now. So,
yeah, for sure. So there is no news that I want to get to. I mean, Jose and I kind of talked about it, right? The reports of a young Brazilian striker being linked with the club, playing with Corinthians. Jesus Christ. Corinthians. I don't know. I really don't think that one's going to happen. If it happens, then Jose and I will be on here talking about it. But I would be shocked if the Union wound up paying $6+ million for yet again another forward. I know Jose and I touched on Eddie Davis being loaned to Loudoun United, which was a move that had to be done, in my opinion, because let's face it, he was only going to progress so much with Union 2 and MLS Next Pro. And we see it all the time where Jose says it, the players graduated. And I do believe Eddie Davis was one of those players that has graduated from MLS Next Pro and now he's playing at a higher level, like Ryan Richter said, a higher level with Loudoun in the USL Championship. So that's the only thing newsworthy that I think's in regard to the Union. But there is something that broke right before we went live. I don't know if you saw this, Evan. Alexis Sanchez coming to MLS as a designated player with CF Montreal as a 37-year-old. What a horrible deal. I couldn't believe it when I saw the reports out there out of South America. I know Tom Bergert also tweeted it. 37 years old being a DP for Montreal? What are we doing? I mean, I guess it's going to sell tickets, but I feel like MLS is way past that point in their history that they don't need to sign old retired washed players like that. Does he have any legs left? I mean, he was horrible with Manchester United, and I don't think he did anything once he went to Sevilla. This is mind-blowing to me, Evan.
Yeah, so to your point about the whole, MLS 1.0 is what I call it. The whole, I'm going to sign some washed late 30s superstar to sell tickets. I thought we were well past that as well. But something about this one is just kind of like, all right, I'm not immune to the propaganda. I want to see what happens. And I know it's like, if I was Montreal and I had a roster with that many holes in it, that is not what I would do with the money. But I am going to be entertained by Alexis Sanchez at MLS, whether it's a car crash or if he kind of steps it up a little bit, which I don't think is going to happen. But if he does, that'd be kind of fun. So, it's again, I would hate it if my team was doing this, but they're not. So, we'll see.
Never say never, but I feel like the Philadelphia Union are well past doing moves like this. So I hope the Union would never do something like this, but I don't know. I'm still so mind blown, Evan, that Alexis Sanchez, like maybe if this is 10 years ago, 7 years ago, yeah, that would be pretty cool, but he's washed. I'm just looking at right here. 2018, 2020, he was with Manchester United. And I remember there was this whole debacle. Oh, he's going to wind up going to Manchester City. And United didn't want that to happen. Goes to United. Horrible signing for them. Then he goes to Inter on loan, then Marseille, then back to Inter, then Udinese, and then Sevilla, where he only scored 4 goals. I mean, he's not the player he once was at Barcelona or Arsenal. And the only reason I see this move happening is to sell tickets. And yeah, maybe for the first couple games, but I don't know, man. I know Montreal has a thing in the past where they've signed older players. Didier Drogba obviously comes to mind, but Sanchez never was at the level that Drogba was in his career, in my opinion.
I mean, maybe that couple of years at Arsenal, but again, we're talking like 10 plus years ago at that point. And yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by the whole Montreal project. I thought they had me interested when it came to, you know, the young, like former youth national team signings, the Brandon Craig signing, the Jalen Neal signing. But, you know, instead of getting these guys like a Diego Rossi type player, which I know they don't grow on trees, but like a Thiago Almada type, like a creative player from South America, young, up and coming. Instead, this is what they're bringing in. Again, not what I would do if I was running the club. So yeah, it's a little bit of a confusing one and not how I would go about it. But I guess we'll see. You know, I don't know what he has left, but he's going to show us.
Supposedly he'll show us. But let's go ahead and talk about last night's game, Evan. Philadelphia Union, Necaxa. Philadelphia Union won that game 3-1, thanks to, like I said in the intro, Ariel Damiani, Cavan Sullivan getting on the goal sheet for the Union, and then Espindola for Necaxa makes it 3-1, who I thought was by far their best player in this match, seemed to be involved in every little detail. And so I don't really want to hit on Julian Carranza's homecoming yet. I don't want to hit on, you know, were the Union really good or was Necaxa that bad? And we can save this Cavan Sullivan talk here for a little bit, Evan. But I guess your overall thoughts from last night's game. This is a game, in my opinion, that Philadelphia was always favorites to win. And truth be told, they probably were out of the League's Cup to begin with after they lost the first match to Cruz Azul. But if they wanted any chance to progressing in this tournament to go into the knockout round, they had to win by at least 5 goals in this game to have any chance. And conceding that goal hurts their chances. Only have a +1 goal differential when at the time I was writing my article, there's like 6 or 7 teams in front of them, I believe, that have at least 3 goals or higher goal differential. And not to say that the Union can't make that up against Santos Laguna, but I gotta imagine the chances of the Union progressing are probably less than 5%, just because you need so much to go in your favor.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with all of the non-soccer stuff, and then I'm going to get to the soccer stuff. So essentially, after losing their first game 1-0 to the champions of Mexico and seeing how the other results played out throughout the night, there are, like you said, there's already 5+, 6+ teams on 6 points. I'm not sure that any team is going to advance on 6 points. I think that the top 4 MLS teams are going to have 7 or 9 points when this all boils down. And I think that's just leads you to think this is a bad tournament format. If you play your first game and you're effectively out, but you still have to play 2 more. I think in the stands, it definitely felt like a game in which both teams weren't really playing for much. You know, it was definitely far from a game that was well attended to the level of an MLS regular season match or even the Cruz Azul match on Thursday. And so for that, I don't know how seriously we should take the late goal, for example, which at the time I felt like, oh, that can matter in goal differential because Santos Laguna, respect to them, they're a weaker Liga MX team. The Union could really stack of goals against them. And if they were to finish on 6 points, maybe that could go a long way. But when you look at the results that happen around the league on Sunday, MLS is sweeping the competition, it seems like. And I know they have the benefit of the home field, but it just makes things all the more improbable for the Union. So moving into the soccer stuff, what we can take a positive from, despite, the likely elimination of the Union from this tournament, is that they really came out and, took control of this one early. And the Union have had some success since Ryan Richter took over, but it hasn't always looked like this. The Atlanta game was a comeback. It was, but it was after 70 minutes of the worst Union soccer I think I've seen in years. And against Cruz Azul, they were lucky not to be down 2 or 3 goals in the first 15 minutes, and then really took control of the match in the second half. And in this game, they came out energized. They came out ready to go, and respect to them. Cavan Sullivan, Indiana Vasilov, and Nate Harriel, for example. I'm going to single out those 3 guys. You could see the energy just defensively and going forward, winning the ball, and just the directness when they do win the ball. The first goal comes from Indiana Vasilov winning the ball in the midfield. He turns upfield, finds Cavan Sullivan, and he turns upfield, drives his defender, passes it to Nate Harriel, who's making a vertical run. And that verticality, that quickness in attack was really cool to see from the get-go. The Union weren't ready to feel out that game, and they were just going to go straight for it. So I was pretty impressed by the performance and the energy that they came out with in this game.
Yeah, you had mentioned Indiana Vasilov there for a second, and he's a player that I've been pretty hard on for majority of the season. And then under Ryan Richter, it kind of seems like he's found new life. He's found new form. And I think maybe a big part of that is because Kai Wagner's back, and now the pressure to create on the left side of the field really isn't there for Indiana, because you have Kai Wagner that's going to be out there creating a lot of the chances. And yeah, sure, there were moments where we'll see Indiana take players on 1v1, but I think his best attributes to this team, whether it had been under Bradley Cornell, whether it had been under Ryan Richter now, is his defensive work rate, winning back the ball, like you had mentioned, won that opening goal. And he's a player that I think does have a role in this team. I think he is a player that, whether it be coming off the bench or whether it be starting occasionally, I think because of that defensive work rate, because of the tedious pressing that he always does, I think that does play a part into the Union going forward. Now, is that a starter every single game like he was under Bradley Cornell? Probably not. And I would imagine once we see Quinn Sullivan continue to build up his fitness, we'll probably see both Sullivan brothers starting together. But Indiana Vasilov's really surprised me, Evan. I don't know how you feel about Indy in these 4 or 5 games now that he's played under Ryan Richter, but it does kind of seem like he's found new life.
Yeah, so what I'll say about Indy, and to start to your point about Kai being back, I think that does alleviate, some of the pressure for Indy. I think when it was either Frankie or Nate behind him, that's a right-footed left back. You're just not really going to be crossing going forward on the overlap that much. And, Kai brings a solution to that. But I also think that Vasilov, his main strengths as a player are not scoring and are not like the final ball. It's not the goals and assists that you see out of some other attacking midfielders. But in the Union system, I think that's okay. Now, it was a very, very frustrating first half of the season for Indy Vasilov. And I know that he had chances that he missed. He had passes in the final third that he missed. But I don't think his game suits the Union as much when they are looking for a goal. But when they're ahead, it's he's one of the more valuable players in the field because of that work rate and because of his ability to keep the ball. And I think that seeing him in the first half of the season, it was frustrating because the Union were conceding early in games and they needed a goal. And, when he's not the type of guy that's like, okay, you give him space and he's going to pick you apart with a long ball. That's not really his game. I think Quinn and Anello are more direct threats to the goal than Indy Vasilov is, but he is such a Philadelphia Union player. The way that he works off the ball, the way that he's smart about when he presses, and he's quick to step up and win the ball back after a turnover. And I mean, you saw it in this game. He sets up the first goal, and he has a great playoff and recovery for the third goal. He stays alert, chips it up to the back post, and Cavan scores it. So, I don't know if this means that Indy Vassilev is going to be like a lock starter by any means, given Quinn's returning, but it's cool to see him pick up on some of that attacking side of his game that was lacking, because if that side of his game is on and he's working, he's not going to be any fun to play against for sure.
Yeah, and it kind of does remind me a little bit of Leon Flock, right? He was never going to score you a ton of goals with the Union, but you knew that, okay, Kai's going to push up pretty much every chance that he gets on the left side of the field, and you can have Indy sit back and cover for him. And now, granted, when Leon Flock was with the Philadelphia Union and what the Union are now, the Union never played with two defensive midfielders at a time like they do now. And so you do have the option of having, whether it be a Jovan Lukic or a Danley John Jock, which it does seem like it's more times than not Jovan's the one sitting deep to cover the runs forward by Danley, or covering Kai Wagner going up on the left side of the field, or Indy staying pressed up high in the field. But yeah, I think if you could just have Indy focus on the defensive plays, winning the ball back, let's quickly transition. I think that suits his game perfectly. And we've seen Alejandro Bedoya at times come off the bench to close out games. I think that's an option too for Vassilev, because again, I do think we'll see both Cavan and Quinn starting games going ahead in the future for the Union. It's happened once, if I'm not mistaken, in under Ryan Richter. They both started against Cruz Azul.
I think it was Cruz Azul, right?
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would imagine we continue to see that in different parts of the season. Does that happen against Santos Laguna? Potentially. I think we see actually a lot of substitutions, a lot of young guys in that match for the Union against Santos, because it's a game, frankly, Evan, that doesn't matter. And to quickly move off of what happened on the field, because there's a lot of comments already in the chat about the attendance last night. There was this comment right here from Jay. He said, it looked like an Open Cup game attendance-wise last night. Wolfie said, I peeped the ticket prices since it wasn't included in season tickets. Disappointing what they were asking for a rather mundane game. Sexy Hoagie says $10 tickets don't exist anymore. And so, yeah, that's just a couple people in the comments and the live chat complaining about the ticket pricing, about the lack of a crowd. But even with Julian Carranza, and we'll get to that in a second, Evan, it still wasn't enough to get fans coming out for this game. And I think maybe that begs the question for some fans, like, why does this tournament matter? Why even show up for these games? Why play multiple games? Literally before we went live here on the show, I had somebody DM me on Twitter and say, just end this stupid tournament because neither league cares about it. And I do think some of the players care about it, because Jose said it multiple times on this show in the past, like, the players do get a significant amount of money, and especially if they win, like, the money aspect makes sense for the players. But I think for both fan bases, whether it be Liga MX or MLS, I think people are pretty fed up with Leagues Cup, and especially when you look at this new format that they went with last year, the top four from each MLS and Liga MX advance. When you have more people advancing in your MLS Cup playoffs than you do in this money grab cash tournament, it's a joke. It's a joke. It doesn't make sense to me why they decided to change the format, where I think 2 years ago it was, when you had two teams in each group, or three teams total. You played two other opponents, and then you played knockout rounds that way. I think that format was a lot better than what we currently have here. And so I can understand why fans aren't wanting to go to the game, even if you have a former player like Julian Carranza coming to town.
Yeah, this, for me, it's just been really frustrating, and I think not good enough, because there's so much wrong with this tournament that I'm not really sure where to start. I think one being that I think if tickets were $10, $15 to that game, I think they probably could have packed the house. I know that they were selling for about 40 before kickoff, which is kind of crazy for a game of that kind of stature. I mean, it was essentially, I wouldn't want to say it was a dead rubber game by the time it was kickoff, but the odds for both teams to move on was very slim. So there wasn't a ton to play for. And, I think for me, the most frustrating part of it all is that we are just over a month removed from the World Cup break, and MLS comes back, and the Union, who were struggling, had really good attendance still. There were still fans that wanted to go out and watch a soccer game. They wanted to watch an MLS team after the World Cup. There was no dialogue about, the drop off between the quality. It was people just wanted to watch the soccer, and it was great. And just 3 games later, the league is on break again after being on break for 6 weeks for this tournament. And I know for a fact, a lot of people that are diehard fans of the Union that go to every MLS game, and when Leagues Cup comes around, they're like, I'm not interested. And I think that this disconnect comes from, I'm sure that there's a lot of viewership on TV of these, the bigger teams, the Gigantes, if you will, the Club Americas, the Tigres, and those fans do really well in terms of attending matches in the US. But that can only really be said for 3, 4, 5 Liga MX teams. And when there's 18 of them playing matches in the US, there's going to be a lot of dead atmospheres and fans that won't travel. And on top of that, with this format, when only 4 teams from each league advance, after that first game, half of the teams, if they lose, so probably about a third of the teams because of the draw points, are going to be out and have nothing to play for 2 more games. And sure, I know some people say the Open Cup crowds back in the day were kind of comparable to what we saw on Sunday. But with the Open Cup, those games you play to move on. And if you reach a semifinal or final, then the crowd is going to show up for that. And there's something to play for. But if you lose this first Leagues Cup game, you have 2 matches that there's really no incentive for you to go, because even if they win, which I thought it would be cool to, go see how the team plays under Ryan Richter. I was in the press box trying to see if I could talk to Carranza after the game. Even if you go, there's really no stakes for that. And it's just kind of a shame how it's all played out, because I feel like the Union are missing out on some of that post-World Cup momentum that, really energized the country the last couple months of the summer.
Yeah, and Jay had a comment earlier. He said, to be fair, the Union will have played 6 home games in a little more than 2 weeks' time. And that is true. That is a lot of games, asking a lot of the fans to come out that often. But to your point you just brought up, I think, we know how big soccer was in Philadelphia this summer with the World Cup. And so I actually think this is a good time for the Union to capitalize on those fans that are craving live soccer, that got to experience a World Cup, whether it be at a watch party, whether it had been going to the actual games. I thought these 6 games was a great time to capitalize. Now, the negative on that, you touched on it a little bit, Evan, is that the league went on a break again. How can we say, thanks, world, we'll take it from here? You play a couple games, and then you pause your league once again to play in a cash grab tournament that the fans have been telling you for years and years and years that they don't care about.
It's so frustrating.
And now you have to kickstart your league again on Sunday. The Union will take on New York City. And then they have Inter Miami on Wednesday, which is so dumb, by the way, Evan. Playing Miami on a Wednesday. I don't even know if Messi's going to play in that game because of his father passing away. And how many fans are going to know that? How many fans are going to show up next Wednesday, Evan, and expect Messi to be there when he's simply not potentially going to be there because of the passing of his father? And so, yeah, it's just so odd to me that we have all this excitement of the league finally starting back up after having an exciting World Cup, seeing how high soccer was, and then they lose all that momentum for a tournament that people just haven't cared about for years. And I get it. The whole aspect of playing international soccer, potentially playing in the Club World Cup, if you win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, That's a big draw. That's a big deal. But I think for a lot of this fan base, I don't know if they really care about that yet, Evan. I really don't. And so, yeah, it's a shame that after the first game, it seems like teams are pretty much out of the League's Cup. But yeah, that's where we are with this format now. You did mention Julian Carranza, and let's go ahead and talk about his homecoming. Did he speak to the media after the game, Evan? I'm not sure.
So Carranza, I tried to get him after the game, but I was told no. So Carranza did the match day -1 press conference, and he also did, as I'm sure many people know, the pregame on Apple TV with his Eagles hat on.
Yeah, we'll play it.
We're always repping Philly. So after that, they said, "All right, we're gonna let King Julian take a rest now and get ready to head back." So we didn't get him after the game, but it was still really cool to see him walking around. He came out of the tunnel for warmups, and he actually went over to the Union bench. He hugged every single member of the Union staff, and then he hugged Jesus Bueno for maybe 30 seconds on the halfway line. So it was definitely an emotional game for him to come back.
Absolutely. And we'll go ahead and play that clip that you mentioned. So for fans that maybe didn't have Apple TV on prior to this game, maybe you're like me a lot of the times and you're waiting till 7 minutes till kickoff and then you're putting on the game. But something told me, let's go ahead and put on League's Cup, and watch Apple TV prior to this game. And so I caught towards the tail end of the interview with Julian Carranza, speaking with Kevin Egan, Bradley Wright Phillips, and Andrew Wiebe. And during that interview, he had called Philadelphia home multiple times. He also mentioned that his family were flying in from Argentina for the game. And so Carranza was also wearing his Eagles hat, like you said. He was also talking about his time in Philadelphia, would he celebrate if he had scored on the night. Also talked about still staying connected, watching the Union from afar. And I know prior to speaking with Apple TV, he had said in the press conference that he stays in contact with all of his teammates still. So this is Julian Carranza prior to the game talking with Apple TV.
If I score, no, of course I'm not gonna celebrate. I'm gonna respect the tradition, and then I'm just grateful to this fan, grateful to this team that gave me the opportunity back in 2022. So, just grateful for that, and I respect them.
All right, love that. You know this team so well, Philadelphia. You know the Philadelphia way. Ryan Richter, I'm sure you know him from his time at the club as well. How can you expose their defense, given that you know how they play?
I mean, I know everyone in the team, so I've been watching the games also when I was overseas. So I kind of know how they play, who's gonna play, and if they don't play, I know the backup. So I'm pretty familiar with the team. I'm gonna try to do my game as well as I always did. Try to find spaces, drop, run behind the line. So I'm just gonna try to do that. Try to see how it works out. And of course, we had a plan as a team. But personally, I want to try to find my own spaces, and then knowing the players is gonna be. I will not say easier, but. I feel like I can know and I can manage and where to find the spaces.
Hey, Julian, 2 words when we let you go here. Go Birds, brother. Go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds. And go Sixers this year. Come on.
Julian, top man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Go Birds. But, Julian Carranza, I mean, what a guy. And I saw Mark had said during that, he said there's only one Julian Carranza, and what a player he was for the Philadelphia Union from 2022 to the summer of 2024. And prior to this game, Evan, he was coming in on good form with Necaxa, scoring 3 goals in his first 3 games towards the start of the new season. He joined last season the Mexican side from Feyenoord for around $4 million plus a 10% sell-on clause in 9 games for Necaxa. He has 6 goals. And so it seems like he's finding new life, new form down in Mexico prior to his time with Feyenoord and alone with Leicester City. And you heard it. He had said, when I was abroad, when I was overseas, I was still watching the Union games. And that's awfully similar to what Kai Wagner said when he went to Birmingham City. Now, does that say Julian Carranza wants to come back to Philadelphia? I don't know. But I do think that it was pretty emotional. I saw a lot of the pictures, the videos people were posting of Carranza hugging staff members, hugging players after the game with Quinn Sullivan. Thanks to Don Robson with the picture with Julian and Quinn Sullivan, which is the thumbnail for the show. But a very emotional time for Julian Carranza, and he also mentioned that was his first time back in Philadelphia since he left in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't feel it in your heart when he looked in the camera and said "Go Birds," you got to get your heart checked out. But yeah, it was a really cool experience to see him playing here again. I mean, for me, I think I'm happy to see him on the field. For those that don't know, he missed much of the last season with a health issue, pretty serious health issue. And this season he came back. He hasn't missed a beat. He has 3 goals in 3 games, like Todd said, and an assist to go along with it. So pretty good. He got a red card at the end of their last game for apparently covering his mouth. I don't know what that's about, but it's a new rule that people are adjusting to. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But just seeing him come back in another team's jersey, it was a strange feeling, but it was like a really cool experience as well. I think all the players welcomed him back with open arms. I think everybody that was on the team a couple of years ago when he was around, even some of the new players took some time to give him a nice handshake and ask him how he was doing. So I think everybody enjoyed it and everybody had a good time.
Yeah, and the one thing too, I don't know if fans realize this, but Carranza, prior to leaving for Feyenoord in the summer of 2024, he had missed the Union's last 6 games because of an ankle injury. And so the last time that Union fans saw him in Subaru Park playing was May 15th of 2024 against New York City. The Union wound up losing that game, but Carranza actually scored in the 2-1 loss. And he's tied for the 3rd most goals in Union history with Mikhail Uwa with 43 goals. And you hear people say it all the time. If Gazag's not on all those penalties, Carranza takes some of those penalties, he's probably a lot closer to number 1 than he is to number 3 on the Union's all-time goal scorer list. And I think Carranza could be exactly what the Union would need up front. I know last episode, Jose and I just started naming a whole bunch of former Philadelphia Union forwards, and we left off the name Julian Carranza. But I'll be honest, Evan, I don't know if the Union would bring back Julian Carranza because of the fee alone. I could easily see Necaxa asking for $7 million plus for Carranza. I know they played $4 million, but he's in good form. They got a pretty good deal, in my opinion, from Feyenoord for him. They know they're going to lose some of that money out because of the 10% fee, the sell-on clause to Feyenoord. So they're going to want to get their monies back. And with him prior to Leagues Cup being in the form that he's been in, whether it be to another team in MLS, whether it be to one of the big dogs in Liga MX, I don't think Carranza stays with Necaxa that much longer, if I'm being honest. And as much as Union fans, as much as I think us in the media would love to have him back, I don't know if he'll ever return to Philadelphia, even with him saying all these great things about the club and embracing all these former players and staff members before and after the game.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer here, but I think if he continues playing the way that he's been playing in Liga MX, I think there's really no chance. I think if anything, he's moving to one of the big dogs in Mexico, kind of like a Diego Rossi type move, or he's maybe going back to Argentina. You never know. Maybe for one of the bigger clubs in Argentina. But either way, I think it was just a really cool experience to have him back. And also just to hear some of the guys that have spent time here and just, have such a positive experience. I think that Kai and Julian going to Europe and still thinking about the club and keeping in contact with everybody and keeping up with the team, I think that bodes well for recruiting young players, saying, hey, we had these guys young and developed them, and they appreciated it and had a really good time. So I think if anything, I know some people get frustrated about, you sign a young player and then they go somewhere else. But I think at the end of the day, this is MLS and there are leagues in Europe that are a bit stronger. And, if you sign a player at 19, 20, 21 years old and they end up being your club third highest record goal scorer before they leave, I think that you can't look at that as anything but a success. So I think, Kai and Julian are two Union success stories, and it's really cool that Kai came back. But for Julian, I think he's going to, continue to move up as long as he stays healthy, which is the number one thing.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Evan. But my question is, was Union really that good last night, or are Necaxa really that bad? And maybe it's a mixture of both. I think once we saw Ryan Richter take off Kai Wagner and switch Nathan Harriel to left back, Nathan was heavily attacked down the left side of the field. I think Necaxa realized that was the weak link. That was a player playing out of position. Yes, I know we've seen Nathan play as a left back multiple times in his Union career, but he was obviously a lot stronger on the right side of the field for the Union on the night than he was on the left side of the field. Yeah, I know the goal that the Union conceded was one that would probably annoy Ryan Richter and the coaching staff and the players themselves, because you had Jafet Siri and Neil Pierre both get caught marking Carranza, leaving a huge gap between Nathan Harriel and Jafet Siri. And because you have both the center backs occupying one fort, that's always going to bold a big disaster. And credit to Necaxa for capitalizing on that moment. And I felt so bad because Andrew Rick makes a huge save like 30 seconds prior to giving up that goal. Andrew Rick, by the way, too, had a fantastic game. 8 saves overall on the night. Again, this guy's got to play, Evan, and I'm sure he'll play the final game against Santos Laguna. Ryan Richter did say prior to this game that Andrew Rick would get the start on Sunday night. Give him the start on Thursday night. No need to risk Andre Blake. No need to throw George Marks out there. Just let Andrew Rick finish out this tournament. But the Union were great in the first half, despite being outshot by Necaxa. Overall, throughout this game, 16-12, 9 shots on target compared to the Union's 3. But other than, making those massive changes, particularly at left back, which again, we continue to see, if there is no Kai Wagner, this team struggles with having coverage on the left side of the field defensively. And yeah, Nathan can do a job, Frankie can do a job, but it just shows you the level that Kai Wagner is at compared to those guys that, again, to be fair to them, not natural left backs, but it tells you how bad it was at the first 15 games of the season, just not having a left back on this roster.
Yeah, to your point. And, I know I said earlier in the show that take everything from this game with a grain of salt. It's kind of, a dead rubber game, but I'm going to be positive here. And I'm going to say that whether you think Necaxa were bad or good, this is leagues levels above what we saw in the first half of the season under Bradley Cardinal. So if you zoom out a little bit, 3 MLS games, if I'm correct, and 2 Leagues Cup games under Ryan Richter, 4 wins and 1 loss. That in itself is just, the Union had 2 MLS wins all season. I think they had 1 actually before the World Cup break. 1 MLS win. So that in itself is a huge jump. But even looking at the performances themselves, I think that the last 2 matches have been some of their better performances. Even, in Cruz Azul, you don't get the result, but the second half, the Union looked really threatening against, honestly, one of the best teams in North America. And while that Atlanta game was probably the worst out of all of them, even though they won, and Seattle was a pretty solid performance, and so was the Red Bulls game, I'm very encouraged by what I saw on the field in the last 2 matches after, of course, that 15 minutes against Cruz Azul. And it's less about, like the score and more about what I'm seeing in terms of the attack, in terms of creating chances and the finishing, which has been a big pain point of the season. Maybe not as much against Cruz Azul, but right here, Bruno Damiani gets on the end of this ball. And this is just like a ridiculous pass from Lukic and an even better cross from Nick Harrell. But how many times this year, Todd, have we seen a low cross come in? I can tell you for a fact, one of these happened against Cruz Azul. A low cross comes in and the strikers just aren't on their toes. So this is baby steps forward. I get it. It wasn't Cruz Azul. It wasn't Necaxa's best game. But I'm honestly really thrilled by what I saw on the field the last two games.
Had to make sure that I wasn't muted because I'm trying to add more clips to the show. I should have done it prior, but yeah, that pass, and I'll show it again. The pass from Jovan Lukic is absolute filth to bypass both the midfield and defensive line of Necaxa, and for Nathan Harrell to get to the end of that, to play that first time across the 18-yard box for Bruno Damiani, who, let's see if I can. StreamYard might have fixed it where you can't really go back to exactly where you want to go to. I can't even pause it. This sucks. You used to be able to do all that. I guess you can't now. But that run is so deep from Damiani, and he still has a ways to catch up to this ball. He's not even close to that ball being played in by Nathan Harrell, but he plays it to the exact spot where it needs to be played, where nobody but Damiani can get to it. And credit for Damiani making the right run to get on the end of that chance. And Jovan Lukic hadn't looked all that great this season. Danley hadn't looked great either under Bradley Cornell during the first half of the season compared to what those two looked like last year, because what we kept hearing, Evan, was, yeah, these are two of the best midfielders in the whole league last year between Danley and Jovan, and they looked to shell themselves this season. But seeing that pass, Evan, seeing him so deep in his own half, dribble into space, lift his head, and pick out that pass, and that's such a hard pass to play. I guarantee you, if we saw that in the Premier League, this would be going viral on social media. That's how good this pass is. I mean, that is ridiculous to be that deep in your own half and to bypass not only a midfield line, but the defensive line too. That's world-class stuff. And I'm not saying that Jovan Lukic is a world-class player by any means, but that's a really, really, really tough pass to make. And to play it with so much precision, with so much pace, into only where Nathan Harrell can get it. This team's playing under confidence that we hadn't seen in the first 15 games of the season, Evan. And it's magic. It's magic what a coach that believes in you and trusts in you and just lets you go out there and have freedom and believe in yourself. It's amazing what a coach's confidence will do for the player's confidence. And not only are we seeing it with Jovan and Indy, but we're seeing it with Cavan Sullivan, who's come into, I think, a whole different Cavan Sullivan the second half of the season compared to what we saw in the first half. We'll talk about Cavan here in a bit, but I don't think there's been a single player under Ryan Richter that hasn't improved, and it's only been 5 games, and Ryan still has so much to learn. I think that's the next clip that I have lined up where he's talking about he doesn't know the players yet totally. They're still tinkering with things tactically, but there is, you're right, a lot to be excited about. And even the second half against Club America, where the Union were frankly the better team in that game, and unfortunate not to get the handball, and again, don't have to rehash what happened in the past. It is what it is. But if this team can continue to build on these moments, these performances, then there's no reason why this team shouldn't make the playoffs this season in MLS, which seems so far-fetched. If you would have said that 5 games ago, the Union are going to make the playoffs, I don't think a lot of fans, I don't think a lot of people in the media would believe that. But now suddenly under Ryan Richter, this team seems to continue to get better and better. Doesn't seem so far-fetched, Evan.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, imagine if the sprint season had just finished up and we were going into a new season starting this fall instead of next fall. The Union would be top of the table on 9 points in 3 games. So frustrating. But aside from that, like you said, the belief is huge for a team like this. The belief is, and like you're pulling up, like Cole says, you're having fun again. And I think that comes with the belief that they're a team that can win games. And when you feel like you've lost your confidence as a team, there's nothing worse than going out there, like after 4 straight losses, you can see the goal. You're like, oh my goodness, here we go again. But coming into that and back to the passing highlights and the performances from the midfield, specifically from Lukic and Danley, when I talked to Ryan Richter early in his tenure, about what he's doing differently, specifically to the team under Bradley Cardell, he emphasized picking their moments in the press and not going after every single ball that comes into the midfield. And while that has helped the defensive organization, I think it's also helped Lukic and Danley be cleaner on the ball because they're not running around the field the whole game. They're not tired. Their legs aren't heavy. And Lukic can afford to, turn and play that pass all the way down the field. I know it's only 15 minutes into the game, but still, I feel like his overall play has just been cleaner in general. So I think you're really starting to, reap the rewards of some of these minor changes that are showing up in a big way under Ryan Richter. And before I stop on this point, I just want to give a big shout out to Nate Harriel, who wore the armband for the Union. He was the captain, one of the younger players on the team on Sunday night for the Union. And he scores a goal, which he's not known for, and drops that assist on an absolute dime for Bruno Damiani. So Nate, have a day, Nate. Enjoy it. And all of a sudden, which I feel like I've never been able to say this, but the Union have a selection headache in defense now. They have depth on both sides of fullback and multiple center backs that can go. So we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the season.
I feel like Neil Pierre has to continue to start there. I mean, Jafet Siri has been fine at times, but again, does get caught out marking Carranza with Neil Pierre, and it's little things that could still be corrected by this team. And I think that is kind of what Ryan Richter was hinting at the end of this game.
I'll talk more about on-field things, but you can see we can try different things, try some players that you might not use in a league game to see exactly where they're at and see if they have a role that they can play in the first team. And, I think one thing that we definitely learned, we used in the Atlanta game, but if you're chasing a goal at the end, what we changed to at the end, we used that again in Cruz Azul. And even though we didn't get the goal, I think it was a tactic that we could use again if we're chasing a goal at the end of the game. So it's trying some new things. And again, I don't know the team perfect. I don't know the players, everything about them yet. So it's still trying to learn a little bit about what the best fit is in what moment of a game and who you can rely on for a role and what role the guys can carve out for themselves as well. So that's going to be every game. That's always changing. But just because we're 5 games into this, you're still trying to figure out a few pieces and just what the best way is to set our team up for success in different situations.
So do you tinker with the lineup against Santos on Thursday, Evan, if you're Ryan Richter?
Oh, yeah. I mean, not just for, I know chemistry-wise, you want to, get your unit together. And Richter did kind of stick with his 11 for the first 3 MLS games. But, there's, like we were just saying, 6 home games in a span of 3-4 weeks. I think that guys are going to need rest. And I think what I would do in this match is I would play some of the less experienced guys that are on this roster. Maybe Kellen LeBlanc gets a shot. Maybe Malik Jakupovic gets the start. Maybe we even see Rafael Uzcategui. So I'm not really sure what Richter's thinking, but I would rest up ahead of. I mean, you got 2 Eastern Conference matches coming up. You have Miami next Wednesday, and you have New York even earlier on Sunday. So I would probably rotate as much as possible.
Maybe we see Ben Bender and Jeremy Raffanello make appearances on Thursday just to see what they have. And we haven't seen Augustine Anello a lot under Ryan Richter. Maybe he gets a start and can prove that, hey, look, he deserves a little bit more minutes than what he's gotten under Ryan Richter. But yeah, I do think it was a mixture of the Union being really good on the night and then Necaxa being a pretty bad team. And yeah, they look a lot better in the second half because the Union make a lot of these changes and you move Kai Wagner off at left back. And again, we saw what this team looked like the first 15 games of the season, not having a left back. And you would have thought you don't go out and sign a left back for a roster. You're going to have a pretty big hole to fill. But speaking of filling holes, Cavan Sullivan, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, Evan, this team, we had questioned at the beginning of the year, where is the attack going to come from? Obviously, no Kai Wagner to start the year. Quinn Sullivan was still out with that ACL injury. We expected Cavan Sullivan to get a lot more game time this season. And I know it really wasn't coming as often as maybe Union fans wanted under former head coach Bradley Cornell. Kevin's obviously played a big role under Ryan Richter since becoming interim manager. And Kevin finally gets a goal on the night. Finally, after I feel like weeks and weeks and weeks of getting so close and creating so many chances, he gets an assist, he gets a goal on the night. And this is a player I think a lot of people knew that Cavan had it in him, and the sky's obviously the limit for this kid. Ryan Richter had said a couple weeks ago that the form that we've seen Cavan and Frankie Westfield in, like Ryan knows that they could hit higher levels than what they had been showing the last couple weeks. And I think we got to see a glimpse of that one Sunday night, Evan, with how good Cavan can actually be. And it's not even what he was doing offensively. Like, yeah, that's great that he was getting a goal and an assist, but defensively too, right? He's winning the ball back. He's recovering the ball. He's putting in tackles and springing counterattacks. And I think for the Union, you obviously have Kai Wagner back. Frankie Westfield continues to create chances for the team. Cavan Sullivan's now hitting another form. Quinn Sullivan's obviously going to get more and more comfortable the more minutes he's playing. If you can get Augustine Anello firing on all cylinders, now we have a team that where the chance is going to come from. Now you have at least 5-6 players that can create chances. There's plenty of chances being created for the forwards now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you could definitely see the step up for Cavan from the first half of the season. And honestly, even just before the MLS break as well, I can remember the Orlando game specifically. You really started to see him, and you really started to see him get more involved in the final third and, not just take some dribbles. What I'll say about the Carnell versus Richter thing is when it comes to his minutes, when he started the season this year, I think he was still 15. He may have just turned 16. Carnell giving him, 45, 60 minutes, not really letting him go the whole game. I think a lot of that was less about belief in the player and more to do with, keeping him healthy. On the other side of things, when it comes to less about being on the field and more about the tactics and what is being asked of him on the field, I think you could really feel the belief that Ryan Richter has on him. I remember some of the post-match conferences under Bradley Carnell. It was very important to him that he plays the right way and he knows when to keep the ball. He knows when to go out as a man. And Ryan Richter's answers when we ask about Cavan are very different. And it's very much about, commending how hard he's been working, about how he's been improving so much. And you could just see the confidence. I mean, Cavan's never been a guy to shy away from a step over a trick, but he was pulling them out of the bag on Sunday night. So you can really just see the growth in confidence as well as just the overall development of his game, because at the end of the day, he's getting better every week. He's getting better every week. He's getting more experience every week. And Ryan Richter made a really good comment post-match about the goal that he scored, because it wasn't a type of goal where Cavan put a guy on skates one-on-one and he cuts in and hits it in the far post. He made a smart run and he arrived in the box at the right time. And those are goals that are going to continue to come as long as he keeps providing the effort. So doing the little things right is just going to go a long way and just fills as well just a big hole that the team needed.
Yeah, I agree. And I pulled it up here real quick. And so under Bradley Cornell this season, Cavan had only played 90 minutes twice. The first time against Defense Force at home in that 7-0 thrashing on February 26th, and then he played 90 minutes against Columbus Crew on May 16th. But so far, under Ryan Richter, we've seen Cavan play 85, 89, 90, 90, and then last night was his shortest stint under Ryan Richter, playing 60 minutes. But when you're already up 3-0 at that point, yeah, it's time to go ahead and give guys some rest with New York City coming up in a week. Cavan, I'm sure, will play some minutes against Santos. Maybe he plays 45 minutes. Maybe he gets to start, and then at halftime he gets subbed out. Maybe he gets subbed on and plays 45 minutes. But you're already seeing the night and day difference with Ryan Richter just trusting Cavan to play pretty much 90 minutes every single game, minus last night. And he's a player, and we saw it too. I remember against, I don't want to get the wrong team. I want to say Inter Miami, and against, there was a home game. I remember Cavan was pretty disappointed getting subbed out. Maybe Nashville under Bradley Cornell, but he was visibly upset being subbed out, and the Apple cameras had caught Cavan being visibly upset, and Cornell, if I'm remembering correctly, said he didn't have a problem with that, but yeah, I think if you leave Cavan out there, you see him growing confidence like we've seen with Ryan Richter. Is he going to have a complete 90-minute game every single game? No. But the more you leave him out there, the more good's going to happen.
Right.
And obviously Ryan Richter spent a lot of time with Cavan in his I almost said teenage years. He's currently in his teenage years, and his young child days, coming up through the academy, playing with FC Delco. I know Cavan was, and Ryan spent a lot of time with Cavan Sullivan. He knows him, he trusts him, and just seeing him grow into the player that he's now become in the second half of the season, just the patience on the ball, knowing on this play here, the overlap was coming with Nathan Harriel, just so patiently waiting. Yes, we know that he has the ability to take players on 1v1, but he always knew that run was coming. Let's go ahead and make a 2v1 situation here. Cavan probably has the confidence and belief in himself that, yeah, I could beat this player 1v1, but let me think smart. Let me play it simple and just play this ball through on to Nathan Harriel, and Nathan with a fantastic finish. And then Cavan makes it a little bit difficult there. Won his goal, chested down instead of maybe hitting that first time. But to his credit, he had enough time to go ahead and chest it down and then finish it with his left foot. But yeah, I said it earlier, and I know I'll probably say it in future episodes, but wow, who would have thought a coach that has confidence and belief in you is going to bring the most out of his players?
Yeah, I mean, again, the confidence, you can just see it. Even in the Cruz Azul game, a couple of times, just dribbling straight past Eric Lira, who's one of the better defensive mids. Yeah, it was the Nashville game. Who's one of the better defensive mids on the continent, just driving Lira crazy in that game. And in this game, maybe less about the goal and more about the assist with the confidence. Just a couple step overs make the defender, not sure, and just lay that ball off perfectly for Nate Harriel. But back to the minutes, I wanna be clear about the fact that Cavan's good enough to play, but we have to remember that this is a 16-year-old, and we've seen recently, in world soccer, if you guys watch Barcelona, you watch the big teams in Europe, you've seen this where sometimes players get too many games to their legs too early. That worries me a little bit. Maybe it doesn't worry the Union coaching staff. I know it worried the former Union coaching staff because they alluded to it multiple times. But one of these next couple of games, I think you'd have to expect to see Cavan get a rest. I think you're going to want him for the Miami game, and you're probably going to want him for part of the New York City game at least. So maybe the Santos Laguna game is a good game to rest him. And I know it feels like, you want to develop your young players. But at this point, he's a lock starter. So you're going to have to pick and choose games for him to play, especially with all this fixture congestion coming up. And I hope they keep that in mind, because you don't want to, have his fourth game in 2 weeks coming up, and it's against Inter Miami at home with all those eyes on that match.
Yeah, for sure. So I have it there at the at the scroll, I said, what's next for Cavan Sullivan? Ryan Richter was asked after the game, there's two FIFA International windows coming up from September 21st through October 6th. And then there's another window from November 9th through 17th. Is it too far-fetched to say Cavan Sullivan could earn his first full national team call-up?
That's not my job to pick that team. But I think what you said is he's getting better every game, and challenging him to continue to do the good things he's doing, and then on top of that, be productive with goals and assists. And he had both a goal and an assist tonight, so this is a big step forward. But whatever comes in the next window, or if it's the next one after that, that part's the decision of U.S. Soccer, and our job is to keep pushing Cavan to raise his level so that he's considered for that, and then when he gets there, that he's at the level and ready for it.
Do you think he gets called up in one of these next two windows, Evan?
If we're saying next two, I feel a lot better about it than the next one. To be completely honest, I've never been able to get a read on Mauricio Pochettino. I feel like that guy's just unpredictable. You never know what he's going to pull out of the bag. But in terms of, Cavan, he is developing in the last couple of months of this season like he's going to be a national team player, U.S. national team caliber player in little time. So if it's not this window, I hope he doesn't stress about it, because he's well on track to be amongst that conversation. Now, after all the talk about the game, I do want to say, compared to some of the other, wonder kids of MLS this year, maybe he hasn't had a season as productive as Julian Hall or as productive as Xavier Gozo. But over the last couple matches specifically, you can really see, the bravery, and, he's willing to pick up a ball in midfield and drive up the field himself. And he's willing to take the reins, if you will. And, we don't have a lot of guys coming up that do that. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be that September, October double window or not, but I think he's well on track to be in the conversation within the next year or so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think now's the time for Pochettino. I mean, he has plenty of time before, obviously, the next World Cup. He has plenty of time to go and tinker with different youth players, young players. I think Frankie Westfield will probably get a call up here. Maybe not in the next two windows, but I think I'll say within the next year we'll see Frankie Westfield get called up. Cavan Sullivan for sure. Andrew Rick's an interesting prospect, obviously filling in as a training goalkeeper with the national team at the World Cup. Do we see Andrew Rick potentially get caught up in one of these windows? I do think that the U.S. have a big need at the goalkeeper spot. I think there's a lot of goalkeepers that Pochettino is going to want to go ahead and take a look at. But as disappointing as maybe it was not to see the Union have anybody caught up to the latest U20 squad for the U.S. national team, I do think that they will have at least two players in Frankie Westfield and Cavan Sullivan within the next year get called up to the national team. And hopefully both of those guys can be staples for years to come. But both of them have had in incredible second halves of the season so far under Ryan Richter. I think if you would ask me who's had the best season overall, I would say Frankie Westfield's been the Union's most consistent player. And I think Ryan's the coach to take both of those players to the next level. I'd be shocked if Frankie Westfield's here past the end of the season with how well that he's played. Obviously, Cavan's still here until he's 18 years old. But there's a lot to like about some of these young players on the Union's team. And these guys, again, I know I'm saying it, but it matters so much. Playing for a coach that has confidence in you. It's going to be these young players that are ultimately going to get the Union back into a playoff spot. And I think Cavan Sullivan, probably not this window, Evan, But the November window, the second window, I think we probably do see Cavan put on the national team jersey and play for the full men's national team. But just sticking with the full national team or U.S. Soccer Federation as a whole, Evan, we do got to talk about Blunder of the Week. And so I said it last episode. I said all this non-penalty given to the Union against Cruz Azul for that non-handball call. That's going to be Blunder of the Week for this episode coming up. That's going to be Blunder of the Month. And it still is Blunder of the Month. But I think we have a call, Evan, that's going to rival that non-penalty given. I think we have definitely a strong contender for maybe Blunder of the Year. It's definitely up there, I would say, in the top 5. And so for people that maybe weren't watching the USA versus Mexico U20s match this past weekend, I believe, right, Evan? You would know better than me. I believe it was this past weekend. Yes,
this was right the same time as the Union versus Necaxa match.
We had the US's Chris Applewhite get a red card for a challenge that he makes on the Mexican attacker. Hopefully this video doesn't get taken down, by the way. But once we see this replay, I mean, this is zero contact. Literally zero contact.
And that's a red card.
I believe from what I was reading online, again, you can tell me if I was wrong or not, Evan. Can't believe everything you read online. But I believe that this was originally given as a yellow card, then they went to VAR and gave a straight red card for this situation. I think that's what I saw people saying online. Again, not watch this match, but I saw this circulating on Twitter. And I said, we know, as people that cover the Union, as people listen to this podcast, as Union fans, they know how harsh that non-penalty given to the Union for the Cruz Azul handball inside the box was. But this is pretty harsh to give a red card to Applewhite for tackling the air. It's a joke of a yellow card, and I saw people joking on social media, Evan, saying, well, it's because Mexico decided to side with Johnny Infantino, and now they're going to get all these calls, and so this is why the U.S. got sent off for tackling the air.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, not good at all. It's a shame that this happened in the final, so we couldn't get any of our American politicians involved in getting that red card rescinded. But yeah, we were spoiled for choice in this game. If you guys want to go back and watch the highlights of this one, Mexico's first goal, it's actually unclear whether or not the ball ever crosses the line. It's given, and there's no definitive VAR evidence to overturn the goal. But this one is just like, it's really hard to wrap my mind around. I don't mind a foul call there because he comes in and the player has to do so much to avoid him. But my gosh, a red card, I don't get it. It's a bit of a hometown call, but what do you expect at this point?
It's so bad. So Sexy Hoagie said, I think Blunder of the Week should be that guy that scored a goal and then jumped into the tunnel and then his goal was disallowed. I believe this happened down in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, number one, I have so many questions. Did you see this video on Twitter, by the way?
It's like scary. I know it's like supposed to be funny, but it looks so deep, and I know it's all like cement and concrete down there. Like that had to be really painful. Like, do we have an update on that guy? Like, did he ever come back in the game? Like, I don't know. It's that was just like a weird one. I've seen I think Hamsik scored a goal way back in the day, and he like ran down the stairs. But I've never seen somebody do it on accident. was terrifying.
So my first question is why is there just a random tunnel this close to the pitch? Like, where does it go? And I saw another video, like the player got up. I was like, is he dead? Like, like, can he walk? And I saw he got up, was walking, had the soccer ball under his belly, celebrating obviously a pregnancy. He got up on his own will. There were so many reactions. I think one of the staffers just was like, oh, like he couldn't believe it. The players are shocked. I mean, that was a terrible video, a terrible look. I mean, can you imagine scoring a goal, not aware of your surroundings? I mean, look, who's going to expect a tunnel to be right at the end of the field? And then after you get up, after you were celebrating, new goal. There's no way you recover. Actually. Yes, there's no way you recover from that. But as good of a blunder as a week that is, Sexy Hoagie, I don't think anything beats the red card given to Chris Applewood. I mean, as Wolfie said, what is wrong with referees this year? Look, referees are humans. They get things wrong all the time. Nobody's perfect, but yeah, there seems to have been a lot of bad referee calls here the last couple of weeks. That is for sure. But I'm glad that we're doing Blunder of the Week again. I'm glad we have some good contenders here the last couple of weeks. But man, it's been a lot of questionable calls. That is for sure. But Evan, thank you so much for joining the show. In hour 16, it's been a while since we've had a long show, but I think the listeners enjoyed it, whether it's people listening live or maybe people listening on the RSS feed. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show. I promise you guys it's almost done. But your debut. Stellar debut, I say, Evan. You play the full 90 minutes. I'd say you came in with an 8.0 match rating, got a couple goals on the night. Well done to you, Evan. But seriously, thank you.
I'll take that. And like, about the length of the episode, like Jose told you before, I like to talk, so I hope no one here is surprised about any of this. But yeah, Todd, I really appreciate the chance to come on here and talk with you. You know, I had a really good time.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on. And again, a lot of people, and this always happens, more people start listening to the show towards the end than they do at the beginning. And so if people aren't following your work, if they don't follow you on social media, where can people follow you, Evan?
Yeah, so I'm a contributor at Philadelphia Soccer Now. You can find us at philadelphiasoccernow.com. That's our website. And we're also on all platforms of social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Evan Knows Ball. So yeah. Yes,
Evan Knows Ball. And I think Jose said it at the beginning. If I can find the comment here. Jose said, where is it at? Did I play it already? Oh, here we go. Jose said at the beginning at 9:20, he said, chat, does Evan actually know ball? So we're an hour 18 into the chat or into the episode. So yeah, let's leave it up to the people on Twitter and Instagram, Evan.
Yeah.
Does Evan actually know ball? But
shout out to Jose really quick, because he was one of the people that convinced me to keep this username. So Jose, thank you. It's funny. I like it.
Yeah, you got to keep it. It's iconic. And look, after many years, you finally get a profile picture on there. After what was your profile picture before? You were
we don't have to go there.
Faceless, weren't you?
We don't have to go there right now, Todd.
He said, "Let me get more professional." And
oh yeah, I had to clean up my act.
Yeah, hopefully you just delete all your tweets and everything. Start fresh. I mean, these people, man. Not to go on a rant real quick, but I mean, you see people get exposed like all the time for like these old tweets and everything that they put out when they were in like middle school, high school, and everything like that. And I don't think I would ever be a person that would ever like make any controversial tweets or anything like that. But I could just imagine, like, man, if I would have had Twitter back in the day, like, there's got to be people that are going to dig up all this stuff. So I am happy that I did get into Twitter a lot later and everything. And it's like, I don't have to worry about having to clean up my tweets or anything like that. Because these people that, you know, have had Twitters for all these years and everything, like, oh, now I need to be professional. Maybe let me go ahead and
middle school.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, like, how do you find the time? well, how do you find the time to go ahead and clean up your act? But yeah, if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/FreeKickPod, live every single podcast on YouTube and Twitter. And then if you guys want to check out my goals breakdown videos, the articles, or the podcast all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. As we go and look, Evan is Jose's replacement, JK. Whoopi says, Sexy Hoagie says, this has been my favorite show ever. Not sure why. Val says Evan knows ball.
Ooh,
so you have one person so far saying that Evan knows ball. Nobody else is saying you know ball. Maybe we'll get comments from people in the RSS feed after the show that say you know ball. Maybe they say you don't. But yeah, I think this loan's been extended. We'll have to talk with your parent club and see if we can go ahead and extend the loan a little bit longer. But yeah, it's been a blast having you on the show, Evan, and it's been a long time coming. And yeah, I do have to give a shout out to Jose. He said, I'm not in for the show tonight. Reach out to Evan. I know he'll come on to the show. And so I am thankful. I am thankful to both of you guys that that one, Jose suggested you, and two, that Jose said, yeah, Evan will for sure come on. And sure enough, he was right. He was right. Evan did come on. Wolfie says, does he know more ball than Jose is the question. I don't know. How about we do next show? I won't be here. It'll be Jose and Evan, and you guys can find out who knows more ball. Seems like that would be a blast.
Oh, God, nobody wants to listen to that. No, I'm kidding. That'd be a blast.
For sure. But yeah, I thank you guys for this late Monday evening, 10:25. And we, let's see, Friday episode maybe, Santos Laguna. I don't know. You guys let me know. I'm sure you guys are going to say yes to a podcast, even though that game's probably not going to matter. But we'll go ahead and see you when we see you. Pyra says, Jose versus Evan trivia battle? What kind of trivia? Now I'm intrigued. So
if you said
I want to end the show so bad, but you guys have had some good comments coming in. Wolfie said they can battle it out. And Val says, yes, trivia battle between you guys. So I know we've got so many new listeners of the show over the last year, really, but about 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, maybe, I used to do a trivia show on this podcast during COVID because there was like no games going on. And so it was just nothing but Philadelphia Union trivia, just bringing on Philadelphia Union supporters, seeing who knows the Philadelphia Union better. Maybe we can test you and Jose's knowledge against the Union. Do you back yourself, Evan?
Oh, gosh, some of the early stuff I might be a little rough around the edges, but I think I could give it a good go.
We'll have to talk to the overlords of the show and see what we can come together.
Yeah,
I just said, give me my own. I need to clean up my OnlyFans. Oh God, this show's going off the rails. It's going off.
We got to wrap this up. Todd.
We do. Ball Jeopardy. I mean, if you guys really want a trivia show between these two, maybe our overlords can go ahead and put something together, and we'll do a one-off episode. Maybe we can get Mark Helkenberg in here. Have a three-way battle. College soccer. I feel like they would put Jose at such a disadvantage.
I don't think anyone's beaten Mark Helkenberg in a college soccer trivia.
Probably not. But again, yeah, maybe we brainstorm this off air, Evan. But yeah, it's been fantastic having you on. It's been fantastic interacting with each and every single one of you as we've tried to sign off here for the last 5 minutes. So thank you guys for all your comments. Thank you for the comments that we are sure to get. I am sure in our DMs and on the RSS feed. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.